does, but when I click on it, it says the host has disabled it.
It says you can't start your video because the host has stopped it.
Just want to say, if you don't have video, you'll have less glitches because it'll use less bandwidth.
Also, too, is if I'm doing share screen, Suzanne, and it says host disabled attendees share screen sharing. So I guess I don't think they put me as host so I can share the screen.
Did we text Manny?
Okay, they're looking into it now.
You're fine, Suzanne.
Well, I believe you should be able to share now.
All right. Yeah.
The video still shut off. Oh,
Oh,
well, there's the flag.
Yeah. Do you want the flag up first? Right. I assume that's the first thing we're gonna do.
No, we call the meeting to order first.
Oh, okay. Let me share. Let me share the meeting.
Are we gonna get video before we start?
Yes, we should.
There you go, Suzanne. Is it up?
Yes.
Our video's not turned on yet.
I assume Manny can hear us, right?
Okay, so they're looking into it right now, but if while they're looking into it, if you want to start, can we start without the video?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Sure.
Suzanne, I'm going to email you.
With liberty
And
justice for all.
justice for all.
for all.
That's really hard when you can't see people.
Uh-huh.
All right. And so, Ms. Campos, would you please take roll call?
Yes. Trustee Bradall,
Here.
Trustee Brocchini. Trustee Brocchini,
Here.
Trustee Doggett,
Here.
Trustee Levin,
Here.
and Trustee Villalobos.
Here.
Thank you.
The district digitally records the audio portion of the meetings. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. As a community service, Pacifica Community Television, PCT, records and broadcasts meetings. Speakers wishing to address the board, please submit your first name, last name, and agenda item through the Q&A area of the webinar prior to the communications portion of the meeting. I will call each speaker up one at a time to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. So so I'm going to item 6 now. Is that correct? Thank you. The board met in closed session regarding public employee performance evaluation, superintendent. No action was taken. Item 7, approval of the minutes. Are there any questions regarding the minutes of March 11th, 2020? I'm going to call on each trustee to give me an answer, and I will start with Kai Doggett.
I have nothing.
Okay, Elizabeth Bradall,
No questions.
Laverne Villalobos,
No questions.
and Linda Brocchini.
No questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 11th, 2020?
I'll motion to move.
And do I have a second?
I will second.
All those in favor? And I guess you're going to ask us one at a time, Suzanne?
Oh, there's Jesse.
Yeah. Suzanne, are you going to ask us one at a time to vote? You are muted, Suzanne.
Oh, there we go.
Whoops, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, trustee Bradall,
Yes.
trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
trustee Doggett,
Yes.
trustee Levin,
Yes.
trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure where public comment comes in. So could you help me out here, Suzanne?
It's
Campos?
next. It's approval of the agenda right now.
Okay, gotcha. So we're on item 8. Okay, all items. Oh, and let me just say that I did, Megan. I can see your question. Well, I can see you commenting to me. So if you guys just type in that you want to do a question, then I will be able to see it. All right. So item 8, approval of the agenda and consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the irregular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the approval of the agenda and consent agenda? I'm going to call on each trustee. I will start with the first person I see, Linda Brocchini.
No questions.
Elizabeth Bradall,
No questions.
Kai Doggett,
No questions.
and Laverne Villalobos.
No questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, and Ms. Campos, you can ask us individually.
Yes. Trustee Bradall,
Yes.
trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
trustee Doggett,
Yes.
trustee Levin,
Yes.
trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. Going down. So we have communications. Speakers were asked to submit their question or comment through the Q&A area of the webinar at the opening of the meeting. I will call each speaker up one at a time to address the board. If you are addressing the board on a non-agenda item, please be aware that the provisions of the Brown Act prohibit the board from acting or discussing such matters at this meeting. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person per topic. So I do have Megan Ellsburn from LSEA has a comment, but I'm not sure if we open it up to her or is this just for the LSEA part of it rather than public?
Yes. So our hosts should unmute her for her to speak.
Okay,
And then
so-
when she has her 3 minutes up, then we will mute her.
Okay, so this is item 9A LSEA, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
So you can hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. This is very different for all of us. I I just wanted to report for LSEA. As you can imagine, our teachers are working around the clock and very hard, and we've been working closely with the district, and we are very appreciative of the communication that we've had with Heather and Maria and Alexis and with Will, just moving forward and getting the ball rolling for this distance learning. It is uncharted territory, and we appreciate their kindness toward us and our trusting our professional knowledge to keep this ship moving along. I don't really have much more to say, but we appreciate working with the district, and we are working tirelessly to make sure our students' needs are being met. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to the Q&A. I do not see anybody else in there. I mean, shall I call CSEA?
So CSEA does want to speak.
Okay.
I'm not sure if she is in the participants. Let me take a look.
I do see Jerry is there.
You do see Jerry. Okay.
Yes, Jerry's the first on my list. So
she would like to speak on CSEA.
okay, well, I am just going to say, please unmute Jerry Newland.
Jerry is allowed to talk now.
Okay.
Hi, Jerry.
Jerry, this is Jesse Levin. You are unmuted, so you can talk on behalf of CSCA for communications.
They still have to unmute themselves. I've allowed them to talk, but they have to unmute themselves.
Jerry, can you unmute yourself? There should be. Oh, she's unmuted.
Okay, here I am. I'm telling you.
Great. We can hear you. We can hear you. Thank you.
Great. It's much easier to walk over to the podium. Okay, I just had a few comments to make regarding how impressed and pleased I am at the way all have joined together as a team, as one team, for the benefit of all our students. We, during this time of turmoil, this time I wrote it up and I can't even read it. You know, we don't know what is going to be coming up next. I only wish and hope that this climate of unison and working together for common goals continues once we are over this virus. And once it's behind us, I would love to see the unison continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now it is people wishing to address the board. And I have the Q&A box open, so I'm just, I'm not sure if there's anybody else that is on. We do have 14 attendees other than the panelists. So if there are no takers, though, we can continue. Shall we wait for 30 seconds or a minute just to make sure there's no technical difficulties?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I've got,
give them a minute.
yeah.
This is a new thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just a little instruction, if you guys can see, you have to go into your Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and then click that, and then you should be able to type something in there. Give it a little bit longer here. Okay, shall we move on?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay. So we are going with district correspondence.
I have not received any official paper correspondence. I think the most official correspondence that we've received have come from the health officer. And those have all been public and communicated with the public regarding the school dismissal orders. Other than that, no official correspondence to report out on.
Okay, board superintendent communications. Is there anyone who'd like to start?
I can start.
Okay.
I did, well, I've been trying to dial into the superintendents and the CSBA updates about the coronavirus. Also, I did try to help. I just stopped by Cabrillo School one day and I helped catalog some of the Chromebooks into the system since I already know that's what I work with every day. I did receive a correspondence from Janelle Jones regarding the para positions, and I guess it's a lengthy one, but I think it's worth reading, so I'm going to just read it from the beginning. Hi, Laverne. I hope this email finds you safe and healthy. I am planning to log into tonight's meeting, but I wanted to send an email beforehand. As you know, I am a classified substitute who works mostly with special ed students, and I just worry how they are doing during this time. In our district, all special ed paraprofessionals and one-on-ones are not working during the school closures. So the special ed students are not getting the additional help that they need and deserve. This is an added stress for our general ed teachers. I want to give you an example of our RSP students at IBL. They are working with their general ed teacher and a contract RSP teacher with no connection to our community, who only works with kids on language arts. They are not getting additional help for paraprofessionals and in a study skills class. I have a friend who works at Woodside High, and she told me that all of their special ed paraprofessionals are continuing to work with students, and I wonder why that is not the case in our district. Thanks for listening to my concerns. I look forward to seeing you virtually tonight, Janelle. And so I do think that's a valid concern. And why aren't our paraprofessionals helping our special ed students if they can, if they're able to? I also received one from Jerry regarding the classified positions that are on the agenda, the janitor and the 0.25 bus driver, and her concerns about that employee. And so that's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else want to go next?
I'll go ahead and go.
Sure.
So I've been trying to be on the San Mateo County Economic Development Association calls, which is SAMCEDA. They have a website, the San Mateo County, that's current with all the coronavirus data. So I want to put that out there. It's smchealth.org/coronavirus. And that has all of the county's up-to-date information on the coronavirus. They were also wanting to get out there for small business. So I thought I'd pass this along. There is a paycheck protection program for small business that they are giving loans to small business. If they're able to keep their employees for 1 year, those loans will be forgiven. So, and I think those are businesses under 500 people. So it's a great opportunity for any parents that are small business owners that are stuck at this point. So I wanted to put that out there. And I also wanted just to thank the community of Pacifica and the education. I mean, just everybody has stepped up over and beyond, and I wanted to thank everybody for all you're doing. So, so thank you. And that's it for me today.
Thanks so much.
I'll
So-
go next if that's okay. Or
Yeah, Elizabeth,
wanna
I
go,
was gonna,
Jen?
I was gonna call on you anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, mostly it's been the conference calls with the county superintendent, which has been Monday and Thursdays. And they've been very informative and been about an hour each of those days. And then I went by both Cabrillo and Sunset Ridge to see the lunch deliveries this week. And of course, they had quite a bit more up at Sunset Ridge. It was a steady flow. I kept my distance, but got to talk to the women delivering the lunches and everything. And they seemed to be in good spirits out there. But that was also just the second week. And then we had a band meeting. We went ahead and had a virtual band meeting, our first one. And it was good to see everybody because at that point, no one had had much contact, with each other up to that point. So just everybody learning how to do the whole distance thing in the meetings. So I'm just going to continue on, I guess, with all the county meetings and the House meetings. And I
Right.
want to thank all the women out there doing those lunches because they're out there every day.
Thank you very much. So I don't have too much to add to that. I did want to tag on to Linda's comment about the paycheck protection. I didn't read through all of the details, but I was very interested in the program. I think it also extends to independent contractors. So it's not just I mean, you can consider them employers of themselves, right? So if anybody's listening out there and needs this, I think that the applications are being accepted for employers right now, but in I think 2 days time, I think I remember it was April 3rd, independent contractors can also apply for these loans that will be forgiven. Don't know the details, but I just want to throw it out there. The other thing I wanted to put out there is that I've received at least a few reminders to try to put in a plug for the census. And so, just to let everybody know, I did my census like 2 days ago, and it literally took about 7 minutes. It was like it was very quick. It's super important for all of us to do that because, based upon the census, then they do sort of the American Community Survey, which is a sample of all of us people, and the numbers that they pick up on these surveys really determine the amount of federal funding that we get. So it really has an important effect. So I just wanted to put the plug in there. Other than that, I've been on these calls with the county as well, trying to listen in and we go over a lot of the different concerns, and then also quite a bit of direction down from CDE, from California Department of Education, is being given there. So I don't know if we get a sneak preview of this stuff before it hits the news, but they're interesting conversations. I think that is about it. Other than that, I've been on my regular calls with Superintendent Olson to discuss a lot of these matters, and I am just so impressed the way the community is all coming together. This is part of the reason why I moved here, and it just the comments from LSEA and CSEA also, it's just the whole community, and especially the school community has really pulled together. This is really uncharted territory. It's extremely struggling. The last thing that I want to say is, I got my 2 boys at home, and it's starting to wear on them. They're starting to get sort of lonely, and they're not satisfied just being home. They're doing their distance learning, but they really miss their friends. There's that social component, and I think that's encroaching on mental health, and then to a certain extent for all of us. So I just want everybody to take care and look after each other. All right, and especially the kids. All right, so that's my correspondence.
And I just want to say I was also been on those county calls, and so I don't have much to add there, but I want to thank everyone in our community especially the teachers who've been really working very hard with this distance learning, and everyone just getting together and trying to get through this crisis. So I just wanted to say that.
Thanks so much, Kai. Going on to item 10 now, district goals. The district values the goals provided in our local control accountability plan, LCAP, and strategic plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details for each of those district goals can be accessed on our agenda online public page or by visiting the district website, www.pacificasd.org, under District Administration, Board of Trustees. Item 10A, update on COVID-19 school dismissal. Superintendent Olson.
Sure. I'll get started. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Perfect. I'll get started on this and then may ask the cabinet colleagues to help fill in. There are so many details that I'll try to give, big picture, broad pieces, but this is the second full week. It seems like so long ago when we started and that we thought it was a relatively temporary move. And I think that's the surprising part. Many of you have said already is that this is part of, and that this is really an unprecedented part. I think the part that helps me keep this in mind is that we're doing this to save people's lives. And I think, obviously student safety is the most important, but this is actually a community safety. We're working to keep people's family members alive, to keep Pacifica community members alive. And it's, I think, an unprecedented public health move that we've never been a part of. I would agree with what both Jerry and Megan said. We have seen incredible, just exceptional efforts on part of all employees prior to school shutting down when there was an identified contact at a school is 7 custodians agreed to work overtime or to come over on their shift and clean a school, disinfect a school from top to bottom. And that, uh, just in that period of time, meeting with both the daytime and the nighttime custodians, really reinforcing how important their role is in terms of providing student safety. And we've had a number of other groups really step up. When we had to pass out Chromebooks, we thought, just ballpark, that probably maybe 300 to 400 of them would be picked up, and we found, I think, that we're closer to 700. And some of our leaders stepped up and said we're going to do it through our library follet system. They put in way more. That we said please stop by on Friday, but many have worked many days after that. One of our librarians has Chromebooks at home that she delivers in her car when people ask for it. So the level of service and accommodation has just been incredible on that one. I do think the superheroes that are passing out the school meals, we're providing both a lunch and a breakfast. And next week we will move to providing 5 meals over 2 days. So one day will be 3 meals, then 3 days worth of meals. The next day will be 2 days worth of meals, but there'll be 5 breakfasts and lunches. We're serving almost 100 kids a day. And to those families, they are extremely grateful for the food. It's also a great time to communicate with families. So Pacifica resource flyers, we're going to try to get some common school materials that you might have at school available for them after the spring break. But I'm really very grateful for that service and just um, the way that people are going about in such a friendly way, providing our kids with the most important part. And if I think about with distance learning, one of the most important things we are doing is providing those meals for students. I think if you think about this turnaround from, I don't want to call it standard school or old school or traditional school, but school when we used to go to a school, to distance learning, is the technology team has had to work together. They've had to troubleshoot a bunch of student account issues, figuring those out together, opening up different programs. There's lots of free programs that are out there, but they all require some action on part of the district. And so they really stepped up on that end. And then I really am very grateful for the work that folks are doing in distance learning. It is again, the folks that had things in place like Google Classroom or 6th through 8th grade that had Chromebooks that were easily available and used on a regular basis, the transition has been relatively seamless. They moved quickly, they got right up to date, students already know how to use it. And then if we think about from the primary perspective, is we as a district have not had devices for K through 2. Mostly those kids get served by going to a computer lab. And so that's been a little bit more of a lift on that end. And so I think when this is all over, making sure that we have devices for our kindergarten through second grade students so that it's just now that we've done this, let's make sure that we keep it going. And I think just all teachers in general, I'm so proud of people taking a risk. I've now been to 3 staff meetings. I had my own technology problems today at the Cabrillo staff meeting, but people are having meetings virtually. They're meeting with students virtually. And I think as this goes on, that's going to be a really important part of this. I know that social piece is, and the social piece of learning is a really important piece. And so we're going to want to make sure that we can build that in there. And then finally, just one last big thank you or notification is that I think most employees were really thankful for the district office staff that was working this week, predominantly the payroll staff. Yesterday was payday. And just as a reminder is that we are functioning on almost all levels as a district office. We just aren't doing it in a location. And so to be able to do the function of payroll was a very important piece to our employees and their families. So I just want to give a couple of big things. I could talk about this topic lots and lots, but one of the things that's out there that's just slightly confusing is that Superintendent of Public Instruction Tony Thurmond has said publicly a few times that he does not believe that we will go back to school at the end of the year. In fact, I think it was a recommendation to continue distance learning through the end of the school year. We get our guidance from the public health officer, Dr. Scott Morrow, and our superintendent of schools, Nancy McGee in San Mateo County Office of Ed. They're working very tightly together with the other 6 counties in the Bay Area. We were a little earlier to close than most of the counties in California. And it would be out of my lane to talk about it making a difference, but I do think it's a really important public health move. And so we have direction to be closed through May 1st. I think the public health order that just recently was updated is through May 3rd. This is not being intentionally vague. It's that we follow the direction, and as soon as we know, we will get that direction. I sent something out today. Just was, you may be hearing these things. This is out there. Other districts are doing this, but in San Mateo County, we're going to take a watch and wait. I don't think most people would be surprised if it's through the end of the school, but that's not something that we want to say now at this point. We're still hopeful that it could get better. Just in talking to teachers, I think in their dream, they would love to be able to go until it's safe. And then if we had the opportunity to come back at the end of the year, that would be fantastic. But it's not, at this point, not a decision that we need to make. We are going to continue to focus on distance learning. And our first phase was around staying connected or getting connected, getting as many kids on distance learning as possible and learning the tools. Spring break starts next week and employees will take a pause. I think I shared in my message today is that there will be spring break. Employees will not be providing distance learning. Folks have worked really hard, and you look at the Zoom. One of the things is that you can look at the Zoom pictures and see everyone's face, and people are very tired. Just like both Megan and Jerry have said, that people are working above and beyond and are really very tired. So when we come back, there'll be 2 days where the staff can get into the schools. There are a couple notices that we have to put out and have to get serious about social distancing. The health order requires that we put notices on the door, that we remind people about social distancing. employees cannot come to their workspace to get materials if they're ill. We're going to make sure that it remains a safe place. And then after those 2 days, we will disinfect the schools again. After spring break, I'll be collecting some information from both staff and from parents around how is distance learning going. I anecdotally, I know from what I hear from teachers, it's interesting to me because I can't visit classrooms per se, but I think from the supply side, I know that our staff is working very hard to do the best that they can. And so we want to see if we can simplify it some way. We really don't want teachers working morning, noon, and night to create materials. And so how can we do that collaboratively so that teachers have a time to connect with their students, and that we can use the economy of scale when we have a few kindergarten teachers in one school, or I know that teams that were working well together before continue to work well. Couple other things. Let's see what anecdotally I think more than anything I hear thank you, thank you, thank you. I hear that my teacher's doing great, or we're so grateful for the connections that we're getting. Every once in a while there's, oh, this is so hard, or there are so many different platforms. A lot is going on in the world. People are very stressed. I think if you have multiple children or the ages of your children, I think those with older children are finding that the kids are relatively independent, but there have been a handful of people that have reached out and said, this is just too much. Is there a way to simplify this? We'll be looking at that. We'll be looking at going a little closer to our typical school curriculum, as opposed to, I think this first part was around getting connected and exploring. We'll be looking at some of that. And then, just like I said to LSEAs, I don't really have the answers to this. I don't know how to tell someone how to do this, but I do trust that the teachers and the principals are working through it. And just like we don't have all the answers to what's going to happen in the future or how this is going to work, I trust that if we work together, we will find some of those right answers. Some of the things that are coming up is, what will we do about 6th through 8th grade grades? How will we report back on students' progress at the elementary level? I think that's most likely a narrative way to just talk about progress and effort. This is one of the pieces about this being so unprecedented, is that 55 million students, that was a week ago, and so probably even more students are now out of school. Everyone's going to be in the same boat. I think the distance learning piece is an important piece of this, but I also think mental health and social emotional health is really important in families. And our most important is, making sure that we remain healthy, that we don't spread the virus, but that we are able to address some of the issues that come up around mental health. And so I'm going to stop there, because I know that Maria will be able to address some of the mental health pieces. Josie can talk about many of the things that have been happening both in facilities and child nutrition, and then will be able to speak to the distance learning. Who would like to go first?
I can go first if that's all right. Can you hear me? Yes? Yes, you can hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. So as far as the distance learning, we start off with, it's exactly what Heather is saying as far as the collaboration. It's amazing how teachers and staff and sites have just glommed onto this collaboration. There are things that we're working towards as far as structuring that collaboration and supporting it. But many of the ideas and the things that we've moved on, because this is uncharted territory, have been from ideas that staff has given us, teachers have given us. The team of specialists have worked amazingly in putting all of this content and pieces together, and also supporting teachers and supporting staffs and grade levels. They've had virtual office hours where they've really just taken what any kind of things that the teachers are struggling with and really helped them kind of gave them a little bit of a direction and support in those areas. They've been doing literally meetings every single day with groups of teachers across the district. And at the same time been sifting through all of those programs and things that are out there that are free. It's I refer to as a little bit of the wild west. I mean, it was amazing how many programs and apps were in my email box saying, oh, we can provide this, we can provide that. The content specialists have really been trying to utilize and sift through that stuff, but with the idea of trying to bring it back to kind of regular school, what our content standards are and our curriculum is, and kind of structure it that way. And as we move into phase 2, we'll be even doing more of that. The devices, our first goal is, as Heather had said, that we were just trying to make sure everybody can get connected and is connected. I know that school administrators and the teachers are figuring out students that are not getting online or not connecting, and they're reaching out to those families saying, what do you need? Is there something that we can do to allow you to get connected? We've given out about close to 800 now. I don't have an exact count, but we've given out 800 Chromebooks. We just got today a lead on hotspots, and there's good like 14 or 15 families that need hotspots right now. So we're going to be getting those out there. So the tech team has been really working on not just making sure that the devices work, but also the apps and the programs work, and making sure that they we tried to get most of them to run through as few platforms as possible, but not taking away from the effectiveness of a particular program that needs to be used. We're doing a lot of listening. The IT department is doing a lot of listening because we're getting ideas from teachers and staff around a program that might be really useful and helpful, and we're seeing if that's something that can be utilized district wide. And so they've been doing a lot of that, and then they've just been troubleshooting. If you can imagine, when you have devices at 6 different schools and hardware and all that stuff at 6 different schools, that's one thing. But when you have them at 2,000 homes, you're whatever the amount of homes you're looking at, it's a little more difficult, so just a little more different in doing that. So that's been one thing. We are moving from again, our goal at the beginning was just to get connected, but now we're moving towards a more we're going to be producing kind of a list of recommendations of ways we can get to a place where it's as much connected to what they were doing curriculum wise in school as before, and moving away from a paper packet approach. So that's our next kind of focus and goal. And again, we have to do this in balance, in knowing that teachers have different ways of teaching and different strategies and modalities that they use, and especially now they've kind of had to reach into their strategy box and how they deliver it. So we want to honor that. We want to honor that piece, but at the same time, we like to have some consistency across grade levels across the district about the approach, and definitely connecting more to the curriculum, the adopted curriculum that we have. So that's really our next kind of phase, is where we're moving there. But and then finally, I just like to mention the library media technicians. They've not only have they been helpful in distribution of Chromebooks and entering them into the Follett system so that we know where they're at, but also they've been really helpful in putting together resources, reading resources, and library resources, and putting them into a central location. And we're hoping to be able to have that out by the by after the spring break. So that's going to be that'll be a really good benefit for the teachers and the staff. So I really commend them for all the hard work and efforts that they've put in there. And that's, I mean, Heather's mentioned pretty much everything else with regards to distance learning. So I think that's where we're at.
This is Josie Peterson, and I can add a little bit to the update. I wanted to mention that our child nutrition program, our lunch counts have actually increased. We were over 130 counts today. And I just really want to thank the child nutrition staff. Our supervisor, Lori Miller, has done a fabulous job in just getting the food in, doing the alternate menus, and the staff have all been willing to work every day to make sure that the students get their lunches. We've also had our transportation department deliver the food to homeless shelters, and they've really been willing to step up and do anything. When there was no transportation, they were helping us disinfect the schools. Our maintenance and operations staff, as Heather mentioned, the custodians have worked really hard to disinfect the schools. We've had staff coming and going throughout the days, and they don't hesitate to come back and assist in disinfecting and making sure that everyone's safe. Our maintenance staff have been called in several times when there's a facilities issue. They came in the other day to help us close out the play structures and the basketball hoops to help with social distancing. And then lastly, our business office staff, it was really a seamless transition for them. As Heather mentioned, everybody got paid on payday. We have our accounts payable person, all of our vendors are being paid, and a lot of our vendors are community members. So they're getting paid, and we're also assisting with purchasing. Anytime a teacher or a staff member needs something, we're in full operations in the business office. They did a great job in transitioning. So I think all in all, these last few weeks have been challenging, but everybody has really stepped up, and I want to thank everybody for that. George Machado, our director of facilities, has also done a really good job in just keeping the team going and making sure everyone feels supported.
This is Maria Gavidia speaking. I have quite a bit of information regarding both our pupil services department and our some HR activities that have been going on that come later in the meeting. So for this moment, I'll keep my remarks to sharing with you some information about the special ed department. First, I'd like you to know that you should be extremely proud of the staff that we have in special education, not only the teachers, but the paraeducators, the specialists, the entire team has just done an amazing job of stepping overnight from a comfortable classroom environment to a virtual environment with many students who are challenging even in a regular environment, let alone in working with distance learning. And I've been meeting with the department on a regular basis, both in the whole team and in small groups by specialty almost every day. And I haven't heard any complaints. I've only heard good ideas. I've heard support for each other, joy about being able to connect with the children. And it's been really a very humbling experience to watch what an amazing job they have done. I did want to just share with Lorraine a little bit about the paraeducators. They do, some of them have been working. I know a number of the teachers have engaged them, and some of them maybe are taking a little bit longer to figure out their own kind of footing, and so I think have been a little more reluctant to involve other people as well. Everybody's at kind of different stages of feeling out how to do this. But I do want you to know that we do have a plan for reaching out to the paraeducators as a group. And Alexis has been building a list of professional development online opportunities for them, and we're also going to, give them a way to kind of express to us how they feel they can best engage with the students and the teachers, whether it's to work directly with the students or to stay in the background and do some other activities to support the teacher, maybe with prepping materials or other activities like that. So we haven't forgotten them. We've just had a lot of things that we're juggling, and they are very next on our plate. So don't worry about that, Laverne.
Thank you, Maria.
Sure.
Okay. So shall we move on to 10B? Okay, memorandum of understanding between Pacifica School District and LSEA regarding coronavirus. This goes under operations.
Yes. So I'm afraid you'll be hearing my voice quite a bit tonight. We'll start with this memorandum of understanding between the district and LSEA. This basically spells out the conditions and the agreements between the district and LSEA around this unusual situation that we find ourselves in with distance learning. The conditions have to do with health and safety, with how the supports and the resources that the teachers will be provided in order to convert into a distance learning modality, and other kinds of and the conditions for return, and what kinds of activities and things we need to put into place in order for it to be safe and healthy for the teachers to return to work. So I want to say that this was our first experience with virtual negotiations. It happened immediately as soon as we found out that we were we were dismissing the students. LSEA approached us. We arranged a meeting immediately, and we were able to come to two agreements very quickly. It was a very cooperative and supportive collaboration. And so we recommend that you approve this memorandum of understanding.
All right, thank you very much. Do I have any discussion amongst my fellow colleagues on the board? I'm not sure if I'm supposed to call on them one at a time. I can, but why don't I do that? Elizabeth, you're the first one I see.
No comment. Looks pretty clear cut to me.
Okay, Linda.
No comment. Looks good.
Okay, Kai.
No comment. Looks good.
And Laverne.
Looks good.
Yeah, so I agree. It looks good. I guess I would like to call a vote. This is an actionable item, right?
Yes.
So I would like a call to vote to approve this memorandum of understanding between LSEA and the district concerning accommodations, for lack of a better term, for the coronavirus. Do I have someone who will
I'll make the
motion to
motion.
make the motion? Okay, and a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay,
I'll second.
Ms. Campos, will you take a tally of the votes, please?
Yes. Trustee Bradall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
and Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. Board passes motion.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. So we're to 10C. Item 10C is very similar, but it is memorandum of understanding between Pacifica School District and CSEA regarding coronavirus. Ms. Gavidia.
Exactly. This is the same negotiations that we went through. We sat down together for less than half a day with the representatives of the district bargaining team and CSEA bargaining team. Again, it was very collaborative and cooperative. Everyone, all of us have the safety and well-being of our staff in mind, and so we wanted to make sure that the conditions that were in place were ones that were protective of staff and students. And so we were able to come to this understanding, and which we all agreed to. And we recommend that you approve this memorandum as well. I just wanted to add that it just so happens that this morning we met again and revised it further in the event that there is an extension of the student dismissal, and we did come to agreement on that as well, and we'll be bringing that extended memorandum to you at the next board meeting.
Thank you. So board discussion. I'm going to start again. Board Member Brocchini.
No questions.
Board Member Doggett.
No questions.
Board Member Villalobos.
No questions.
And Board Member Berdal.
No questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to pass a memorandum of understanding between the district and CSEA regarding coronavirus?
I'll make a motion to pass.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Campos?
Trustee Berdal,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving right along here. Oh, my internet connection is unstable, so I hope I don't get kicked off here. Can people still hear me?
Yes.
Oh, very good. Okay, I am trying to go to my, well, we're at 10D, and this is Memorandum of Understanding between PSD and LSEA regarding posting of vacancies.
Yeah,
Ms.
so this is again an agreement that we reached between LSEA and the district. This has to do with a joint interest in expediting recruitment of teacher positions, especially, and filling those vacancies as quickly as we can. So this memorandum allows us, the district, essentially to collapse the timeline for posting internally at first and then externally. This allows us to post both internally and externally at the same time, so that with the condition, the caveat that we take into consideration first any employees who would like to transfer into any of the existing vacancies. But it allows us to recruit simultaneously. So it saves us in a couple of weeks of time, basically. So this was a good agreement for us to come into.
Okay, board discussion. I see Elizabeth right next to me.
No comment.
Linda.
No comment.
Kai.
No comment.
Laverne. Laverne, do you have any comment? You're on mute,
You're on
Laverne.
mute.
No comment.
Okay, great. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second.
I'll second.
Ms. Campos, we're at your whim.
Okay, Trustee Berdal,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along. Item 10E, approval of Form J13A, request for allowance of emergency conditions. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you. This is a carryover item from the last board meeting, and this is really has to do with the ocean shore flood that occurred back in January. This has nothing to do with the current situation of the COVID virus, but really just allowing us to count attendance for the days that Ocean Shore School was flooded. And it is an action item tonight.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start the discussion here, and it's not about this instance of requesting an allowance for an emergency condition, but the larger emergency that we're going under right now. Do we have any direction from CDE as to whether we should be requesting allowance for emergency conditions for any of the remainder of the school year?
No, that's a very good question. And actually the CDE has waived this requirement. based on the current status with the COVID virus. So we do not have to file
Okay.
a waiver. There's probably just a declaration that we'll fill out on the CDE website, but nothing to this extent.
Great, great. And I think that I saw something, I can't remember, I read so many things every day, but there was some direction from them on accounting for attendance, your P2 or whatever, your ADA, right? I think that I think there is some direction now for accounting for attendance to, they still want schools to put in for attendance for up to when schools were closed. And I think that that will sort of take care of the rest of the year, I believe, because obviously we're not taking attendance right now.
Yes, that's correct. That's exactly what I'm hearing as well.
Okay. Okay. So bottom line is, it sounds like we're covered.
Yes.
Okay. That sounds good. Are there any other are there any questions or discussion on the part of my colleagues on the board?
No questions from me.
No?
No
No
questions.
questions.
Okay. Laverne? Ooh, I don't see Laverne anymore, and she's muted. And I believe that, oh, there you are. Do you have any discussion about this, Laverne?
No, just so you know, I have a poor connection, but that's why I'm going in and out.
I got you. I got you. I'm in the same boat. I get that little internet connection is poor.
Yes.
Flash up on the screen. So, okay.
Just
This
FYI,
Yes.
when you take your video off, if you stop sending video, it will help keep you connected. It just lessens the amount of data that you have to send.
Is that the stop video or the hide self view?
It should be the stop video.
Okay, I'm gonna push the stop video and see what happens. Oh, there I go.
Okay. So I believe this is an action item. Yes. So do I have a motion to approve the J13A request for allowance of emergency conditions?
I'll motion to approve.
I'll
A
second.
second. Thank you. Ms. Campos?
Can I get a clarification on who seconded, please?
That was me, Kai.
Thank you. Okay, so Trustee Bradall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Excellent. So we are on item 10F, Measure O update. Ms. Peterson.
Okay, thank you. Will's going to bring up the PowerPoint now. In just a second. So we wanted to bring you an update on Measure O. We are really still so grateful for the community for passing this bond measure back in June of 2018. If you can go to the next slide, Will. Okay, that's not it. I'm just going to wait 1 second until he gets the slide back up again. Okay, there we go. Thank you. So again, the bond measure passed back in June of 2018. And here on the first page is really just a summary of the bond measure. We did go through an extensive needs analysis before going out for the bond. And as you'll see, as we get further into the presentation, the bond really is much needed. It's been over 20 years since Pacifica School District had a bond measure. And so this bond is really going to go a lot towards the facilities and also towards our technology, which we had really fallen behind in the last 20 years. If you can go ahead and move forward, please, Will. So the first thing we did after the bond passed was we did start on our facilities master plan. Our needs assessment was not as comprehensive as the facilities master plan. So we engaged an architect to assist us with this plan. And we did extensive stakeholder engagement. If you remember, we had a lot of staff meetings and community meetings. We had staff meetings at every site. And when you look at the actual facility master plan, you can see the actual the pictures of the staff meetings and the chart boards and all the work that they had done, because it really is a lot of work creating this facility master plan over an extensive amount of time too. So after we did the stakeholder engagement and compiled all that data, we had a work study on April 10th, and we reviewed the facility master plan. And again, the board was able to provide feedback. Included in the plan also was we did a demographic study by King Consulting, and then we brought the draft plan back to the board on April 24th for approval, and the board approved that plan. The full plan is posted on our website if anybody wants to look at that. And if you don't mind going forward. So part of the consultation with King Consulting is they assisted us in getting state matching funds. So one of the things about the state matching funds is if the district has no funds to put forward, you don't qualify for state matching funds. So now that we have the bond measure, we are qualified for over 4.1 million in modernization funding and 752,000 in new construction funding. And then one of the things we did talked about over the last year is a bond oversight committee. It's one of the requirements of a bond, and our bond oversight committee just met in January, reviewed the expenditures, and provided a report to the board in February. And we listed the committee members here. Unfortunately, the only committee member left at this time is Dennis. He was the one who came to the board meeting and presented to you. So we are actively recruiting more members for the Bond Oversight Committee. The principals will assist us in getting members from the school sites. And if you go to the next slide, you can see the report that the Bond Oversight Committee issued in February. The first item is the reimbursement resolution. One of the things in the bond measure was the board did pass a resolution where they could go back up to a year, the previous summer, and count some of the technology, roofing and flooring expenditures and charge that to the bond. And then we kind of list the district-wide planning and consulting costs, legal costs. A lot of the bond expenditures at this point have been put towards technology, much needed technology that our students have needed for many, many years. And then we have site projects listed, but the only site project we've completed so far is the flexible furniture at Sunset Ridge. So we've spent just over $1 million, almost $1 million in bond funds at this time. And then you can go forward. Current projects that were not listed on that were the Lindemar Educational Center. We're having a fire code project done there. And then over the summer, we're going to have the district office roof replacement, which the board just approved in one of the previous board meetings. And then again, technology. Our infrastructure is quite outdated. And so we are putting almost $400,000 of district funds with some matching E-rate funds towards the infrastructure and configuration installation of the network infrastructure, and then just getting those projectors into the classrooms or the LCD displays, whichever the teacher prefers. But that's something that we've been needing for a long time. And then you can go forward. So one of the things with the bond measures, we realized that our technology was very outdated, our infrastructure was very outdated, and we have a small staff here in Pacifica School District. So we did engage digital advisors, and the next two slides kind of go over the last year of work that we've done. I won't go into every single one, but some of the big highlights for me is that just the introductions they made to us and helped us to assess our technology and our infrastructure and what is needed going forward. And so one of the big things for me was the security that they assisted us with. In this age, you hear a lot about phishing attempts and data security. So that's one area that they really assisted us in. And then if you move forward one more slide, Will, another key thing for me is that they really helped us with the E-rate funding. We were able to get over almost $250,000 worth of E-rate funding based on their assistance. So we've done a lot of work in technology, and you're going to see that going forward. As we start spending the bond funds, we're really going to be able to beef up our technology and get the devices into the students' hands. You saw that Will talked about the over 300 Chromebooks that we were able to disperse to students, and that was with bond funds as well. And then going forward, so some of our goals going forward is we do need to look into hiring a project manager. We looked at whether it would be best to use an outside consulting firm or hire an in-house staff person. And we really do feel that having someone here at the district office locally assisting us as we move forward with the bond would benefit. So we are going to ask the board in one of the future agenda items to help us hire a project manager and also hire a coordinator of instructional technology. We need to prioritize network and security assessment, classroom technology strategy, and then develop the technology plan and technology budget. So go ahead, Will. That's really a summary of our bond update. I don't know if you have any questions or if anybody on cabinet has anything to add to any of the, I know I did go through pretty quickly, so if there's questions or additions, please feel free.
So I just want to be clear, the project manager that we're looking at, that's going to be covered by bond money, right?
Yes, that's correct. As long as 100% of the activities that the person works on is bond funds.
Okay.
If there was another project in the district that we needed that person's assistance with, then we could do that as long as we allocate that percentage of time to district funds.
Okay, thank you.
And Josie, this might apply more to the repairs on Ocean Shore, but one of the directives yesterday was that construction has to stop unless it's low-income housing that all construct. So I don't know if we had anything in the process with the bond money, but I'm not so sure that we were done with Ocean Shore either. So I'm not sure if that gets in under an exception or not.
Yeah, that is a good question, Elizabeth. And I was just at a CBO meeting this afternoon, and they were talking about projects. And so there is a resolution. I haven't had much time to really look into it in detail, but there is a resolution that we can bring before the board with regards to public works contracts and being able to move forward with some of those projects. And so the main one for us would be the district office roof. The Ocean Shore project is nearing completion and is under the control of our insurance company. So it doesn't appear that this COVID-19 situation will slow that process down. It looks like they'll be moving forward without us having to do any action ourselves. But we might have to bring a resolution to you for completing the roof project.
Okay, it looked like the health department's directive today was even construction on buildings and stuff like that had to stop for this part of the shutdown or the shelter in place, and construction companies, all that were at a standstill. So that might be coming up, but if we'll probably have quite a bit of time than just the summer to get the repairs done.
Yes, and it isn't really a crucial safety issue, so we could postpone it if need be, and it's something that can be done any time of the year, not just the summertime.
I did have a question. I was just I emailed you guys. I was just curious on the salary range on that position.
I can address that with the next item, Trustee Bracchini.
Okay.
Okay, if there is no further discussion on the Measure O update, then we can go to that next item.
Oh, okay. Well, they strategically placed one after the other here. This we're presenting for you a draft job description for a project manager. Josie worked very hard to with a neighboring district where this position already exists to make sure that it's aligned for the same function in the other district. So the representative duties are very reflective of what would be required in order to manage the projects that fall under this measure. Trustee Bracchini, you had emailed us a couple of questions. If you don't mind, I can answer those for you now. One is about whether we should put project manager for Measure O specifically as part of this job description. And we decided that it would be better to leave it open. although all of these activities are directly related to something like this bond measure, to what it takes to manage it. If we put it specifically in for a certain bond, then if something else comes along, we would have to change the whole job, change the title of the job description for that particular measure. So we decided it would be better to just leave it broad, leave it open that way, even though that is the intention for this particular position at this time. And then your other question was about salary range, and we haven't made a final recommendation yet for that. It's under consideration right now. We do think it will probably be at a step or two lower than the range right now for a supervisory position, a classified supervisor position, because this person will not be responsible for supervising individuals, but for just coordinating and managing projects. And that is that would be lower than, at least at this point, lower than the low 70,000 at the starting end of the range. But as I said, we haven't made a final recommendation yet.
Okay, thank you for answering the questions.
Yep. Yes.
So I have a quick question here, because it would seem that everything is up in the air in terms of the shelter in place and what Elizabeth just mentioned. So I guess the timing of this is kind of interesting. That is, we wouldn't want to hire somebody too soon, right? If all they're doing is kind of sitting around and conceptualizing who they're going to call once they're open, to service us. But we also don't want to do it too late. So I guess this is just more of a point that I want to make. It would be good to try to get a handle on how much upfront work there would be to conceptualize and to sort of do our internal estimations and or whatever they have to do upfront before going out and engaging vendors, right, and beginning sort of procurement on this stuff. So I guess I just wanted to point out that I think it would be important to figure out how much of that front-loaded work there might be, and that might be better inform us of the timing of this this vacancy announcement. So anyway, do my fellow colleagues have anything that they want to add?
I agree with you in terms of the timing, but that's about it. I just feel like it's a little iffy right now.
I could add a little bit if you don't mind, Trustee Levin. Actually, we really do need somebody now because there's a lot of work in the front end as far as like we need to do architect pre-qualification. So we need to issue an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications for architects. We need somebody to help us review that and select architects. We need to prioritize the projects. We need to get these projects into DSA, the Department of State Architect. There's a lot of pre-construction and upfront work that needs to be done here in the office before we can even break ground on any of these projects. So it would help us if we had somebody in the office now, even during the COVID-19, working on some of these administrative tasks.
Oh, okay, thank you. I just had no idea how much upfront work there was, but it sounds like there's a lot. So thanks so much.
Yes, thank you. That was helpful.
Any other questions?
I'm good. But anybody else on the board?
No questions.
So we recommend that you approve. Did we already vote on this? Did you already vote on this?
No.
Okay, so we recommend that you approve this new job description.
Well, now that you said that, do I have a motion to approve the project manager job description?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Campos.
Okay, Trustee Berdal.
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Levin.
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 10H, new job description, coordinator of instructional technology, Superintendent Olson.
I'm in now. I was out for just a minute. I lost bandwidth, but I'm back now. So in our year-long study of the work that we need in technology, with the bond, there's a fair amount of work that needs to be done around classroom technology and what our standards are, how we use that to best instruction. We just happen to be in the middle of an extreme experiment with that, but prior to being in the distance learning curve is that we knew that there was a fair amount of instructional technology leadership that was needed. And in terms of current technology departments, more often they are, it used to be that they were very much a business function and it was making sure that the technology worked. And now it's important that the technology works, but it's also really important that it gets used for the instructional pedagogical purposes. And so for that reason, we bring forth this coordinator of instructional technology that would be a management position. And we have this job description for you. We would ask you to approve the job description.
Thank you very much. Board discussion, Ms. Brocchini.
Nope, sounds good. Something we need.
Yeah. Ms. Doggett?
No questions on this.
Okay. Ms. Villalobos
No questions.
and Ms. Bradal?
No questions.
Okay. I think that the job description looks fine to me. It looks very comprehensive. So, do I have a motion to approve this job description for a coordinator of instructional technology?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second,
I'll second.
Ms. Campos.
Okay, Trustee Bradal,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 10I, principal vacancy at Ocean Shore School for the 2020-21 school year. Superintendent Olson.
Okay, at the with the appointment of Julie Tarango Carrillo as the .8 Director of Special Ed and Pupil Services, that leaves an opening at Ocean Shore School for their principalship next year. And so I just wanted to update you on the process. The position has been posted in EdJoin. It closed today. There are a number of very strong candidates, and there was some good interest in that position. Some things that we have done is Ms. Gavidia and I met with the Ocean Shore staff virtually last week to ask them what they'd like in teaching and learning to look like at Ocean Shore School in 3 years. And then we also asked about what qualities, characteristics, and skills we would like to see in the new principal. So we had a nice hour-long discussion. The staff is submitting some names for members of the first round of the committee. We will have some principals, perhaps a school psychologist, other personnel, other district personnel on that first round of interviews. We hope to hold those interviews virtually on the 17th of April, which would be after spring break. One of the things I'd like to do, and we're up against the ending of spring break, but with this virtual landscape, using some of the tools to meet with the parents. And so I haven't set out the invitation, but will is perhaps a night meeting tomorrow night at 7 p.m. and then a daytime meeting at 12:30 on Friday, using a tool called Thought Exchange, where instead of one person talking at a time, someone puts their idea out and then it gets built upon with that one question in mind is what skills, qualities, characteristics are we looking for in a principal of Ocean Shore School? And so the first round of interviews we hope to have on the 17th of April. With the COVID emergency, if we didn't have viable candidates, we would have certainly made a different decision or slowed down. But at this point, I think that we can continue. It's a very rich pool, and so we hope on the 17th to have the first round. The following week to meet with to have the second round, which is typically cabinet. And then if there's a need for a third round of interview, which every once in a while happens, that would be with the superintendent and the candidate. And it's our hope that that we could bring a candidate to you for your approval on the 29th, not knowing how things go with the emergency. I'm not promising that, but I'm certainly hoping that we can hit that April 29th. Are there any questions?
I have none. It sounds like an aggressive schedule, but a good schedule.
No questions.
I have no questions.
I have no questions.
No questions.
Okay. So is this, was this just an informational item, or are we voting on this?
Correct. That was just an informational
Okay,
item.
that's what I thought.
Oh, it could
Okay.
have been discussion if you had discussion.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you. So moving right along, I think we are on item 10K. Adoption of resolution number 2020-04-01-A. Oh, that was interesting.
Jesse?
I think you skipped 10J.
Oh,
Yes.
did I? I'm sorry. My apologies, everyone. Let me go back. Okay, so 10J, update on Ocean Shore interim principal. Sorry about that.
I can do this very quickly. So when Julie Tarango, in preparation for Julie Tarango's family leave, parental leave, I asked Barbara Ng to be the interim principal at that time. That was in November, December. And if you will think about that, that was prior to Ocean Shore's flood. And it also was prior to this emergency. Barbara Ng did a great job and was very hands-on, very present, helped solve problems, even in light of all the things that were going on with the construction at Ocean Shore. However, with the transition to distance learning, the need for someone to be on site is no longer so crucial. The other part is that the current vice principal has had her time freed up. She has a young child at home, but has had her time freed up by being able to work from home. And so what we think is the best, and everyone is in agreement, is it's not a new position, although VP, if you take VP and call it virtual principal, which is what people have been moved to, is that essentially we would like Siva Steele has agreed to step up into the role of principal for the time that we are in distance learning, or until Julie Carrillo returns on June 1st. This was already approved in the consent agenda, but just as information for everyone. And this would just be until Julie Carrillo returns.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board about the interim principal?
No questions
No
from me.
questions.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Now moving on to 10K, adoption of resolution number 2020-04-01-A, endorsing April as Global Autism Awareness Month.
Well, yes, thank you. We bring this resolution forward for your consideration and approval. Once again, April is Global Autism Awareness Month. And this is, I know that you all know about this particular developmental disability, and that it's very important for us to continue to focus on improving the quality of life and education for individuals on the autism spectrum. and also to continue to focus on inclusion, and to make them embrace them as members of the community. Um, a couple of tips. Tomorrow is World Autism Day. And so if you remember, wear blue tomorrow in recognition. Blue is the color of the national or global holiday. And you'll probably, when you look around town or in metropolitan areas, if you're driving through the city, you'll probably see buildings and facades lit up in blue in support of Autism Awareness Day. I just want to share with you a statistic. When I first came into special education 20 years ago, the incidence of autism diagnosis was 1 in every 500 children. And last year, when I brought this resolution, we brought this forward, it was 1 in 64. And this year it's 1 in 59. So the incidence is increasing, and it's definitely important for all of us to be aware and to inform ourselves as much as possible about autism. And the other last piece of information about this is that the committee that supports this global celebration has named this year the Year of Kindness, which seems very appropriate, especially this year. So that the theme of kindness to all is what they are promoting as a part of the recognition of this Awareness Day. So we recommend that you adopt this resolution.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions regarding the adoption of this resolution? Ms. Berdal. You're muted. There you go.
No questions.
Okay, Ms. Doggett.
No questions.
Ms. Brocchini.
No questions.
And Ms. Villalobos.
No questions.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve adoption of this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second?
1 second.
Ms. Campos, will you take the vote, please?
Trustee Berdal,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, item 10L, declaration of need for fully qualified educators in 2020-2021. Ms. Gavidia.
Oh, this is a required process that we go through every year. The superintendent is required to submit a declaration on behalf of the district to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. That is a prerequisite for issuance of temporary teaching permits, emergency permits, internship permits, or internship certificates. They ask that at the beginning or in advance of every school year that we give them our best estimate of how many of those we might need in the coming year. And then they sort of set that aside for us in the event that we do need it. Of course, we always aim to hire fully credentialed teachers to the maximum extent possible. But every year it does turn out that we need at least 1 or 2 of these emergency or preliminary types of permissions to bring teachers on board. So this year we have asked them to approve 3 education specialists permissions and 1 multi-subject teacher permits to set those aside for us. So what we ask that you approve the superintendent's request for these permits for the coming school year.
Okay, thank you very much. Any of my colleagues on the board wish to weigh in?
Not for me.
No questions from me.
No questions.
Sounds good.
Okay, so my only question is, you've got placements, and then the form has a list of all the different programs that we are involved in for internships. Are these? There's 3 education specialists and 1 teacher.
Right.
They're coming through one of these programs?
They could be,
They
or
could
they
be?
could, yeah, they could be, or they could be coming through
Okay.
another one that, although we have a pretty extensive list, but they could be coming through another one that we are yet not aware of or
Okay.
don't yet have an agreement with, but we could have an agreement with.
Okay.
But most of the time, these are the ones that we have the most frequent relationships with.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Yep. Mhm.
Thanks so much.
Sure.
So I believe that this is an action item. So
Yes.
do I have a motion to approve the declaration of need for fully qualified educators for 2020, 2021?
I
I'll
motion
motion
to
to,
approve.
I'll second.
Suzanne, did you get the first? Who
I
that
did
was?
not get the first. Can I have clarification on that, please?
This is Laverne. I was motioning to approve fully qualified educators 2020, 2021.
Thank you.
And I seconded.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay. Trustee Burdall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Great. Item 10M, lottery and enrollment update 2020, 2021. Ms. Gavidia.
Yes, I have just a little bit of information to share with you about our lottery, which seems so, an enrollment, which seems now like such a distant memory. Will, are you able to put up the slide? Oh, great, thank you. How would it be best for you if, should I just say move it forward or next? Will? Just, Will? Can you hear me?
Just say next.
Next. Next.
Mr. Lucy,
Yay,
there you
thank
go.
you. Yay. Okay, so there are 3 ways that children can come into the district as new residents. It's on a rolling basis. They come in, they register, they get a spot in the district in their grade where there's a spot at whatever school there's a spot for their grade level. We always work to keep siblings together. So if there are 2 or more children, we look for spots that are together to the greatest extent possible. For kindergartners and transitional kindergartners, and Trustee Burkini, thank you for pointing out that typo. I'll correct it for next time. And for 6th grade, there is a very well-defined lottery process that happens. The process starts in the early fall and culminates after the holiday vacation with 2 separate lotteries, one for the Ks and TKs and one for the 6th grade. Next. So priority placements are prioritized in this way. Children who are retained or accelerated have first priority. Children of newly hired district employees that work at least 3/4 time to full time have second priority. Siblings of students who are currently enrolled have third priority. Residents have fourth, and out of district students have fifth. So children are placed according to these priorities or on a wait list to get into their school of their first choice in this order of priority. Next. So these are the numbers from this last fall and winter enrollment registration and lottery process. I'll start with the column on the far left, the transitional kindergarten. Lottery was on Valentine's Day. We had transitional kindergarten and kindergarten lottery was on Valentine's Day. For TK, we had 72 openings. Of those openings or seats, 15 were set aside for priority placement. So children who fell into one of those top 2 or 3 priority on the placement list. So that left actual openings of 57. We had 64 children who registered. Of those children, 89% got into their first choice of transitional kindergarten, which is great. For kindergarten, the lottery was held on the same day. The registration process starts in October. literally, the Nicole Ortega, who is our administrative assistant, who really manages this whole process. As soon as the dust settles in September from, school opening and all of those month of school activities, she rolls right into the lottery registration and lottery preparations for the coming year. So it's really almost a year-round function for her. We had 360 openings in kindergarten. Of those, 128 were priority placements. That left 232 openings for 354 students who registered. That the first 84.5% of children in kindergarten got their first choice. 11% their second choice, so very similar as to the TK trend. A 0.5 or 0.6% their third choice, and the remaining 0.3 or 0.4 got either their fourth or fifth choice. That doesn't mean they will never get into their higher choice school. They are on the wait list for their first choice ordinarily, and it's not unusual for people to move through the list and to obtain a spot in their first choice school sometime during the course of the year. And then for sixth grade, the lot.
It seems that we just lost you for about 20 seconds, Ms. Gavidia.
Oh my. Okay, how far back should I go? Everything's good with TK and K.
Yeah, just restart the sixth grade again, please.
Sixth grade lottery was on the 31st of January. We had more openings for sixth grade than we did students who came enrolled for sixth grade spots. So the rule when that happens is that you don't have to hold a lottery. So we had 100% placement of sixth graders in their first choice school. And so those are the numbers for this last lottery season. Will, can you flip the next page? Just some future considerations. We've been talking for a while about updating our methods. Right now, the tentative plan is to hopefully switch to a digital registration for the school year 21-22. So there'll be, if everything stays on track, next year will be an implementation and rollout year for the following year. The other action that we've taken that seems to be working out well is past practice has been to always put any extra classes that needed to be open at one certain site every year. And for the last 2 years, we've been moving that around, any new classes that we need to open at the kindergarten level to different locations, which seems to be working out well. And that's the update on the lottery this year. Any questions?
Maria, oh, sorry, Jessica.
No, please.
I just had a question on how the decisions are being made about the kindergarten placement. Like I know this year at Valimar, they've got 3 full classes.
How the decisions
traditionally they did 2.5.
Right.
So just curious how that's
mostly space, like where is there space that we can utilize? So I think pending availability of space, every site will probably get a turn and it will rotate through in that way. As opposed to always selecting the same site, which tended to build kind of an image or a reputation of people who are unhappy or don't end up getting the site, their first or second or third choice, end up going to this same school, which kind of paints a negative image of the school that's really unwarranted. So our part of our purpose for kind of beginning to move the location is to kind of dismantle that image of Sunset Ridge as the school where people go when they don't get where they want. So those were the 2 motivations.
Yeah,
Just
thank
to build on that a little bit is that one of the pieces of work that Josie talked about that we did with King and Associates was about a year ago when we had the demographer come and present to the board on the enrollment. And at that time, the good news was is that our enrollment isn't decreasing. It was growing by just a little bit each year, kind of like a boa constrictor. It's not growing in waves. We don't need to build schools, but if we can accommodate those slightly larger kindergarten classes as they come back, and then constrict when that enrollment goes down. That was about a year ago. I will be curious to know as the economy settles whether that's going to have any impact on our enrollment.
Did we answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. So Ms. Gavidia, I have a quick question. I mean, if I read the TK column correctly, we did not admit 7 out of the 64 that wanted in. Is that correct? Or am I reading that wrong?
7 out of the 64.
So there were 57 actual openings after the priority placements, but there were 64 who registered. And that's where you get 57 out of the 64. So there's 89% that got their first choice, but there's
Right.
11% that got no choice, is the way I read that.
Well,
Am I wrong?
well, the reason we didn't, no, they got their second choice, but because it's TK, there's only 2 choices. So you either get your first choice or you don't. That's
Oh,
why
okay.
we put it there.
Okay. I mean, the way that it looked, it
I
looked
know.
to me is it looks like we're not serving 7 kids.
No. It just, yeah, you're right. We could have put the number there. It just, because we know there are only 2 choices, it seemed kind
Sure.
of redundant, but
Sure.
that's why.
The complement is in second choice. It's 1 minus
Correct.
the 89%. I got you. Okay.
That's it.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I
Sure.
was just saying that I know that scientific studies have shown that TK is actually really, really effective.
It's popular.
So it will also very effective. So it would be a shame to not let
No.
students in there. So everybody who wanted TK got TK,
Yeah.
but 11% of them got their second choice instead of their first choice.
Yeah, which means they're on the wait list for their first choice if there's movement. And really, there's, when we're doing the lottery, it's 6 months or more away from the first day of school. There could be a lot of movement. It's hard to predict. So
Okay.
a number of those children will probably end up in their first choice.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
That's helpful.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's the end.
Oh, okay. Do any of my other colleagues on my esteemed colleagues on the board have any further discussion?
No questions from me.
No questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. This is an informational item, so we will just keep going on. I think we are at 10N as in Nancy. Pupil Services Update Spring 2020, Ms. Gavidia.
Okie dokie. So this is there we go. Oh no. I'll just give Will a second to get it up, get the slide up.
How is everyone doing with time? This is, we've spent a long time sitting. Shall we power on?
I'm for powering through.
I am as well.
I'm okay.
Me too.
We seem to have lost the Will's screen.
Oh, okay.
Or I have anyway. Oh, there it is. It's back.
Sorry, I got disconnected, so I apologize. But it's up now, right? It's up there for you now.
The agenda is, but we don't see the slides yet.
Oh, I never got the slides for it, so I'm just going to pull it off the attachment.
Sure. Okay.
That's enrollment. Oh, wrong
No.
one.
Oh,
Wrong.
yeah, it's the next one.
Next one.
N is in Nancy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay. Great. So I just want to talk with you a little bit about the social emotional wellness services that the Pupil Services Department is providing during this distance learning time. Will, you can flip to the next. Just to give you a little context, the team consists of our administrative secretary, and I will show you a list on the next page. Oops.
All right.
The next page, the next slide has a list. You don't have to move it yet. There we go. Of the tasks and duties that Nicole Ortega has, which are quite a few. The other components of the department have grown over the last 2 years. They include our SO team and our SART team. Our SART team down below is our student attendance review team. I've mentioned it a few times at other board meetings, and our intention is to at some point to have the SART team come and present to you what their function is and how they have grown over the last 2 years and what direction they see going to support improvement in student attendance at school. Today, I'd like to focus more on the SO team, which is our mental health team across the district. SO stands for Social Emotional Wellness, and I've listed there for you the members of the team, which essentially are Christina Ireson, our mental health counselor, all of our school psychologists, all of our school counselors, and Jen Gray, who is our manager of the behavioral services in the district. And then if you could go down, Will, thank you. So this list here, just again for context, these are all the administrative functions of the department. For the most part, Nicole and I, and with Nicole doing a lot of the heavy lifting, manages all of these aspects of the of student services. Basically, it's non-instructional services that are provided for families and students. So at some future point, this would be a presentation all in itself to share with you a little bit more detail about that aspect of the department. Will, if you could flip the next one. And again, I mentioned the SART team will come for a future board presentation to talk about their work. Will, next one. So what I really want to share with you today is how the SO team has been responding to the coronavirus distance learning environment that we find ourselves on. The team has been working virtually together and with families and other district staff to support kind of a three-pronged support system for all the members of our PSD community. For students, the supports for students. Well, I should back up and say that, Heather mentioned at the beginning when she was talking about giving her coronavirus update, how important it is to pay attention to the emotional and spiritual and psychological wellness of everyone during this time because of the crisis that we find ourselves in and the kind of shock it is to the system, and the rapidity with which it took place, that we switched so quickly from one mode of living to another. So that's that's a life stressor. And so we've been paying close attention to all of the members of the community, not only the children, but the teachers and the parents as well, to make sure that we're building a foundation of support for them while they're out there trying to teach and trying to learn and trying to parent and do their jobs as well. So for students, and the team went to work immediately. As soon as we were home, working from home, they immediately started to reach out to our high risk students, our students who had experienced a need for a risk assessment or a threat assessment this year, who are known to have psychological or psychiatric needs, who are already kind of on our radar. They immediately started connecting with those children and families in order to help them stabilize and to, help them stay connected with support systems. They've been doing virtual individual counseling sessions, making phone calls, um, doing virtual group counseling for our students in the therapeutic middle school program, providing community resources and linkages to community counseling and other family and individual supports. They've been running online social skills group. They've been helping the students do mindfulness breaks and exercises. They do email check-ins. Laura Reinecker, our middle school counselor, has continued to operate the Virtual Spectrum Club, the LGBTQ support group for the middle school students. And she has opened it up to middle school students across the district. And she also has continued operating the weekly peer helper meeting. And again, check-ins with high-risk students. And then next, for families, they have been doing phone calls, emails, providing resources and for parents. They've been continuing the parent counseling service for the middle school therapeutic program virtually. They've been connecting families with resources in the community. They've been sending home counseling packets and SEL worksheets that the parents can use with their children. They've been providing social narratives and social stories, tip sheets for how to work with children with disabilities, responding to parent emails when parents reach out to them if their child is in distress or if they're having a need for some kind of support. And then a list of mental health and coping resources in the strategies and resources in the community. For staff, the focus has been on supporting teachers, supporting students' wellness. And so they've been coaching the teachers on what to look for when if a student shows signs of distress or that their adjustment is not going well. They offer support for that teacher and coach them on how to manage that. They have created a shared folder for COVID-19 distance learning that is just for social emotional learning tools for the teachers to have access to. They've been helping teachers do outreach for families that have kind of dropped off the radar. And so they take turns kind of reaching out and making phone calls and connecting by email to try and engage those families and children back into the school community. And then for situations that might come up on a case by case basis, they've been providing individual consultation for teachers, for students that might be kind of a little bit higher up on everybody's radar. So they've been quite busy. They have really put their heart and soul into transitioning into this modality and maintaining as much support as possible for families and children. Um, and so for me at this point, my focus for them with them is to help to make sure they're taking care of themselves because uh, people work is can be a high burnout situation in the best of circumstances, and under these circumstances it could easily be detrimental to the care provider. And that applies for all of us, right? So we've been doing weekly check-ins. We've been providing consultation as needed for the team itself. And we've worked with them when I say we, I mean myself and our kind of lead mental health provider to promote and coach them on providing self-care for themselves and peer support for themselves so they can keep helping other people and also feel good about them, feel good themselves. So we wanted to just point out to you what a fantastic dynamic job this team is doing. You wouldn't think there would be so much for them to do, being that counseling is not as tangible of a service as providing instruction or some other supports we provide the kids, but they've been very, very engaged and involved and doing good work out there. And we're very grateful for that. Any
Thank you very
questions?
much. Yeah. Any questions? Shall I go down the list, or do you guys all want to just weigh in on whether you have questions?
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
I just want to make a comment that it seems like everybody is doing the best they can under the circumstances. Thank you.
I agree. Thanks so much to the whole team.
Yep, I
on
will
this.
relay that to them. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think this is super important. I mean, I just personally anecdote an N of one, as we say, but you know, I could see it in my kids. They're starting to look a little rough around the edges. You know, the first couple weeks they're fine, but now they're starting to feel socially isolated. You know, and we are social beings. So,
Mhm.
anyway, thank you so much for your work.
Yes, I will tell them. Thank you.
Okay, we are at 10:00. Human resources update. Ms. Gavidia, you again.
Yes, so just to let you know that we're moving forward with our, recruitment efforts to fill our vacancies. Alexis, that is the main focus of her work these days. I've mentioned earlier that we had entered into an agreement with LSEA to collapse the timeline so that we can expedite our recruitment. We also have, and that's a formal agreement. We've also had informal discussions with them, and they have graciously agreed to allow us to kind of move forward our timeline for when we might consider bringing a contractor in. When we might say it's getting late in the season and we're not likely to be able to hire a teacher into this particular position. So let's take the opportunity to hire or rehire a contract that we've had good success with as a means of kind of buying the district a little more time while we work on this more long-term situation of being able to fill mostly our special education teacher positions. So that was I think a good move and a supportive move on the part of LSEA to help us move forward. We have one applicant right now for a resource position. And we do have quite a few applicants for our school psychologist opening, but and I'm sure we'll be able to select a qualified person from that pool. They have tended to be first year psychologists, so right out of their internship or maybe with 1 or 2 years under their belts. Um, but be that as it may, it's still a qualified person. There's still a pool of qualified people, so we'll be running these interviews the week right after we come back from spring break, and we'll keep our fingers crossed and see how much progress we can make on that. Meantime, I've started to open up conversations with some of our contractors who've expressed an interest in staying with us so that we don't lose them to other districts or to other localities. And so we're working both of those simultaneously. It's our goal to open up the new school year without any vacancies next year. And that's my update from HR.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to, excuse me, item 10P, Human Resources Director job description. Ms. Gavidia.
Okay, so we're bringing forward the newly developed human resources job description. So this represents the HR leadership part of the current executive director position that's been broken into two different positions. Um, uh, if you look at the job description, it basically encompasses everything that an HR leader in education would be responsible for. And we recommend that you approve this position so that it will go into effect for the coming school year.
Do I have
This is to approve the
job
description, just the description.
Correct. Do you have any questions about the job?
No, I think I have some questions about the salary, but the description, no.
Do you want to ask those questions right now?
This is the one we discussed earlier, correct?
Yes, we did discuss this in closed session.
Okay. I think I'm okay.
So I guess what I would say about the salary is that it is still under consideration. I think what what would be, I think, accurate to say is that, well, Heather, maybe you want to, can you address this? Is Heather there?
She
Heather?
is on mute.
She's on mute.
Yes.
Do you,
Dr. Olson, you are on mute.
Unmute. Okay, there
There
we
you
go.
go. Yes.
So this would, we have an administrator salary schedule, and it would follow along that administrative salary schedule. As a director, one would start at the A1 director spot in the first column.
does that answer your question, Kai?
Oh.
Ms. Doggett?
Yeah, it does. I just have some reservations about it for right now.
Okay, well, I mean, this is just to approve the description itself.
Right.
So, do any of my other colleagues have any discussion points they want to bring forth on the description itself?
No questions on the job description.
No question.
Mine would be more of a comment that just in previous years, the Director of Human Services had more job duties to justify the position and pay. But there's really nothing we can do about that right now, but that's just my concern.
More job.
I don't know whether you can hear me or not, but Laverne, can you say a little bit more about that?
I can't say a little bit more right now because I don't have the what do I want to call it? Like the graphs of what each director in PSD does and who's under them. I would have to look back in previous years at Superintendent Tuckluff's examples. So this, to me, this just feels really rushed, and I think it needs more consideration and discussion.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you'd like to table this and perhaps look at previous job descriptions of not the same job but similar jobs, because we really haven't had a
one
director. I mean, we could extract what was the executive director position and extract the HR functions from that and compare it to this, but basically, I mean, we if I'm hearing you correctly, Ms. Villalobos, that we want to do some more of those side-by-side comparisons before approving this.
That would be my point of view. My point of view is that this is it's its own job, and we do have our issues with human resources, but we're a small district, and this is coming from Maria's position where she was holding 3 different positions. And so I just feel like it's been rushed and like it needs more consideration.
Could I add some information to that?
Sure.
Laverne, this is everything that I've been doing plus everything that Moy used to do in one position.
Yes.
So it really is a combination of both of those. Just so you just to I just wanted to point that out because there is no more there isn't a classified manager anymore that does what Moy used to do.
Yes.
Mhm. And I would also add, just from my own personal experience, that yes, we are a small district, but the volume of work and the legalities and the procedural aspects of human resources makes uh, it, it makes it very difficult for less than one body to do that volume of work. Even though we are a small district, it almost is. It's not necessarily aligned with the size of the district so much as the volume of work that there is to do.
I
That
completely understand you, Maria. I just feel like, you know, the chart that we received came a little bit too late for me to really look at
I
it. If
understand.
I would have received it a week or two ago, I would have had time to look at my old emails and sift through and find the other charts that Wendy had done. And I think there are probably about 4 of them. So I'm just giving you my point of view
Yeah.
on this. You
Well,
know, if I'm looking at, you know, the title director, you know, yes, I agree with that. You know, the next one's salary, you know, I don't know what that looks like. You know, Moy used to make, you know, X amount of money and, you know, it may be different from the administrative salary schedule. So, you know, it's just really rushed for me. And so, you know, the other board members, you know, may say or do what they want, but this is just my point of view.
yeah. Well, if there's any other information I can provide while you kind of digest all of this, I'd be happy to do that.
Yes, and
You know,
maybe as
between now and the next time.
exactly.
Mhm.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Happy to do it.
My only question is this going to slow it down anything if we take a couple more weeks to move forward?
Uh, well, you have to have a job description before you fill the job, right? So,
Well,
I,
right,
I,
but I mean, we have Alexa.
I think it's still early. It's still early enough, and there's someone in the position that's interested in the job. I think if we should need to change it to the degree that we need to go outside, that's where the time is of the essence. But I think it's still April 1st, and I think we do still have some time, and we can provide all of that information. And I would be very interested in seeing previous charts or duties that may have been in place in the past.
Okay, it sounds like we have some consensus here about tabling this. Um, uh, I don't think Elizabeth, you're the only person I think we haven't heard from. So I assume that or Kai, also you. Sorry, Kai and Elizabeth.
I um I mean, I have no problem approving the job description, and then I think the salary and all that, which I think is more of the issue, would probably come up more, you know, when we're actually doing the hiring. Um, as long as this doesn't leave us, you know, without anyone at all, I don't mind waiting a couple weeks. But I don't know if we want to do the job description and just not the
Well,
actual.
but I think part of Laverne's curiosity here is to actually look at previous job descriptions of various jobs and to compare them to the job descriptions here. So to satisfy her curiosity.
Okay, as long as that doesn't leave us
that.
without anyone in the position.
It doesn't sound like it. I mean,
Well, I think just the fact that we're going back and forth on it justifies a discussion, something that's a little bit more broader um, on the director of human resources. And, you know, I just can't say. I just feel like it's rushed and that we got the information too late.
I ha-
Absolutely, and I will take credit for that. Is that, you know, clearly we've been working on the distance learning and the emergency. So there is not a reason to rush this. I do think that by the next meeting, all of that information can be provided, and we can make comparisons, and then we can make a reasoned decision.
That works for me.
The crisis is not a reason to rush this one.
Perfect.
Agree.
Okay, so if there is no further discussion on this, let's move on, shall we?
Perfect.
Okay, so item 10Q, public employment, employee appointment, Director of Human Resources. I guess we're going to table that one as well, yes?
Correct.
Okay, so 10R, discussion of resolution 2020-03-11-D from March 11th, 2020. Ms. Gavidia.
Okay.
There's a speaker that's interested in this one, as I understand that. So Jerry Newland was interested in speaking.
Okay.
Jerry, are you with us? She has not typed into the question and answer, but she indicated to Suzanne she was interested.
Sure. So Jerry, you are on, but you are muted right now. So if you can unmute, you can have some time to speak to this. There you go.
Okay, well, this is a discussion item for you folks as well. But, you know, I spoke at the prior meeting on March 11th, I believe it was, and gave some rationale as to why I felt this position, well, both of them are necessary, but particularly the 4-4 that works at 4 hours at Sunset Ridge, 4 hours at IBL. And one comment that I received as to why we would want to continue this position, the 4-4 in particular, was that these two schools with the most at-risk students would be losing the necessary support to maintain a clean and learning environment. The question was, why do brown kids have to always suffer? Thank you for listening, and I hope that you will also be hearing us. So it's like it not only impacts the cleanliness of the building, of the properties, but it also has an impact on the students themselves. And without this 4-4 position, there will be things that are going to be left undone on a daily or night basis. So we really want to encourage and hope you're listening to us that we need to keep this position, you know, and if there needs to be some budget cut, you know, for budget cuts or something, I think there might be someplace else to find it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yep.
Okay, Maria.
Yes. So we at the March 11th board meeting, there were some comments that were thought provoking, and so the board asked us to pull this and bring it back for discussion. So that's what we have done for you to have the opportunity to discuss this further. I don't know if you recall the detail of it, but this was the original resolution was to eliminate one night custodian position and then reduce one of our van driver positions by 0.25 FTE. So it's free. It's open for your discussion now.
Can I, just because I think Maria's freezing, I'd like to fill in some details, is that March 11th, there we go, now she's come back online, but I'll continue, is that on March 11th, we did choose to table, the governance team chose to table this one. I think a lot has happened in the last 3 weeks in the world, and our recommendation at this point would be there is an open nighttime custodian position. So we don't we don't need to take the action to reduce this position, the nighttime custodial position, is that there's a little bit more flexibility if we don't lay it off, is that there's not that reduction, but there's the choice about filling a position or not filling a position. And so that gives us a little bit more flexibility. And with the van driver, our recommendation is not to make that reduction at this time. So this is your opportunity for discussion.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll just start. I mean, given the uncertain situation that we're in, it sounds like we are just going to hold steady on this and not take any action, which sounds fine. We can we can definitely. This is something that we definitely don't have to act on, and we can preserve that 4-4 position and the van driving position, right?
Yeah.
I think it's always better to, if you have to make a reduction, to just not fill a position than, of course, to lay anyone off, especially now. And
Yeah.
with the other position, I was on the board when we did sell the school bus because it was in disrepair. So I was part of the ones that we wanted to have a plan for him to not lose work at that time either. So I'm for of doing this by just not filling the other position.
I just want to make a note too that I believe it was at the last board meeting where this was tabled, but we asked about the monetary effects and that it really wouldn't make that much of a dent in our budget if we kept these positions. And if Josie is there, is that still true, Josie?
Yes, I'm here. It just means we'll be finding cuts in other areas of the budget.
But we don't know what those cuts will be yet.
No, we don't know what cuts will replace these ones. No, we don't know.
Yes. And I kind of feel like Jesse does, where this is like a new time in the past month on what's going on. And I think that we could wait on this one as well.
I agree. I think we should not eliminate these positions at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also agree.
Yeah, I think that we it sounds like we're pretty unanimous here that we do not want to take any action here. And there's a lot of uncertainty that we still don't know about what the budget's going to what type of budget we're going to have for next year. Right? So I think we're just going to have to reassess once we have once things have settled down a bit. So
Right.
So I guess this was just a discussion item. I don't think that we were going to take any action anyway today. So.
No.
Okay.
We did not bring the resolution forward for the purpose of you having the chance to discuss this. I think that you've hit upon the thing that was the most important, is that when we talked about these reductions, this was much previous to the current circumstances.
Yes.
And so, but just to be completely clear, is that the intention is to use the open position that we have. The open nighttime custodial position is currently not to fill that, but to fill that if there is a need. And so I don't want there to be a misunderstanding about that intention. It could be a cost savings at this point. We have the opportunity to move the district employees. It would be an involuntary transfer, but it would allow us to not have anyone to lose their job, and afford the most flexibility in terms of, should we need to move quickly to add that position, is that we could hire from that position. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Shall we move ahead if we've exhausted that discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Item 10S, as in Samuel, network analyst job description. Superintendent Olson.
Perfect. In the reorganization of the tech department, there is a need for the network is the highway that all of this work happens on. We see it challenged right now through the piece of software that we're using on our home networks. But that a network analyst's job is to troubleshoot the current network and make improvements and suggest improvements, and that's still an important piece of that job. It's currently the job is portions of that job are a part of the classified management job, and so we need to make sure that we have that that function in our new tech department, and so we would ask you to approve the job description for the network analyst that was reviewed today by CSEA.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
No questions from me.
No questions.
No questions.
I have no questions.
No questions.
Okay. So this is an action item. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second,
I'll second.
Ms. Campos.
Okay, Trustee Bradall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Great. Moving on to item 10T, resolution number 2020-04-01-B, resolution to reduce certain classified management services. Dr. Olson.
Sure. I, as the superintendent, have had to make a number of very difficult decisions, and this was amongst one of the most difficult ones in terms of reorganizing the tech department. And part of the challenge in working with the school district is that the people that do the jobs are highly valued. And this is a position that was held by the employee for 21 or 22 years. He was the initial member of the Pacifica School District's technology team and has been with us since the beginning. He is the one that was responsible for our initial network and every upgrade since then. But as I have stated before around the coordinator of instructional technology position, the time has come, as has with other districts, is looking at the instructional technology versus the function of technology. And so at this point, I ask you to make the very difficult decision to, it's recommended that the reduction in the classified management position because of a shift in priorities of the technology department. It's a very difficult one because this is a well-liked and very well-respected member of our tech team. And, but at this time, it's my recommendation that we make that change. Are there any questions?
Just what is the difference between what this person is doing and the job description we just approved?
So there are a couple of functions that are different. One is that in this particular instance, this person is a management, plays a management role, so a number of the network items are that will be in the new job description are around keeping the network running, where I believe that the role of the reduced one is more of the initial, it's an older job description that for this particular position, but the more of the development and the architecture of the network. And so the difference is one is a management position and the other is a classified position.
Okay, thank you.
And so Superintendent Olson, there are significant cost savings. That's the whole motivation here, right?
The motivation is around reorganizing the tech department at a similar rate, maybe just a slight change, cost savings of approximately $10,000. But the purpose is the function of the technology department is a focus on providing support and direction in terms of instructional technology. That's the primary one. It's there is a reorganization. There's a small savings, but the purpose is really around the function of the department.
Okay, but I was thinking that on a one-for-one basis, just these jobs that there is a significant cost savings, and that's a huge. I understand that the overall reorganization of the technology there will be a slight cost savings, but between these two jobs, there's actually very significant cost savings between these two jobs, right?
Oh, absolutely, yes. One is paid at a management rate, a senior management rate, and the other is the network analyst job description would be funded at classified range 69, which is a relatively high classified job, but it's significantly less money.
Yeah.
I just want to make a comment that I've known Nelson for 13, 14 years now, and he's always been a dedicated hard worker, sometimes running from place to place to place in a matter of, one day. And I'm kind of feeling like that he's really getting the short end of the stick here. And that I'm also thinking that our tech department is too small anyways, because we're a small district and we've just been on a shoestring budget. And, just having Nelson as the lead person, that was just way too much for one person. And I don't know how many computers we have up and running in all of our schools, but that's probably too much for one person, even an assistant. And so, I know that we need both. That's what I'm trying to say. I know we need both. So I'm really stuck and in a bad position on, I don't know if this is just discussion or are we going to vote on this too?
I believe the intention is to vote on this.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? So I mean, how involved was Nelson actually in the distribution of what we're up to 800 Chromebooks?
So in many
Was
periods
he actually
of
really
time,
active in that, or was it?
So the question is how involved was he? He was involved in the procurement of it. He was involved in it was a tech team partnership where Will was involved in the leadership part with the principals. Nelson was involved in the procurement part of getting the devices, the distribution. He worked with a company around having them delivered and having them. So he was very involved in that piece of the getting the Chromebooks out. He was responsible for the initial Chromebook, the initial rollout to Smarter Balance testing. He was for the first set of Chromebooks that we've purchased. And I will say that our tech department has been underfunded for many, many years. And when I talked about the challenge about going to distance learning for the primary folks and not having had access to those devices in their classrooms for years. So I don't disagree. We've been underfunded in this category quite a bit.
Is there any particular reason why this person can't roll over to the new job? The new job?
Yeah, they're. So this person in the resolution to reduce the management could move over to the network analyst job description. that is the same skill set, and we're I don't think we've come to agreement, but I think it's mostly because we haven't finished the discussion with CSEA. Is we would work with CSEA about the process of filling that job, and that would be a nice match for Mr. Sandino's skill set. And so, but again, it's a reduction in pay, and that would have to be something that he would want. Was that your question, Kai? Could he roll over into that position?
I'm just trying to figure out, are we removing his job completely and he will not be employed with the district anymore, or by creating this new position, even though it would be a pay reduction, he could, have the possibility of taking the new job?
Yeah, that's first of all, it's not a job that was I want to be crystal clear that this was not a job that was developed for him, because districts need someone that's paying attention to the network, especially when we're going to be making some upgrades to our network. So it's a job that we need. It was not developed for him, but it is a nice match with his skill set. And I think when I complete the conversation, I believe I could probably complete the conversation this week with Ms. Newland, is that if he should be interested in that job, that would be that I'd like to be able to have him have that job. The other part to know about people with network skills is that that's a high demand skill set, and so there is, an opportunity that rather than take a reduction in pay, that he may want to explore other options.
Thanks.
So I have in the Q&A, Ms. Sue Beckmeyer. I'm not sure if she wants to do public comment or not. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to read what she wrote in the Q&A. Excuse me.
Where do I find the Q&A again?
It's down at the bottom of your
there it is.
screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm not sure if I'm going to defer to Superintendent Olson for direction here.
So we could either hit answer live or we could read her comment. Shall we hit answer live and see if she wants? There we go. She'd love to speak to this item.
Okay.
I'll hit.
So Ms. Beckmeyer, please come on up.
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
Great. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak on this item. My first impression is that the only way we would have been able to do distance learning in less than 2 weeks' time is because of the work of Nelson Sandino over the years that he's been with the district. At the time that his job description was developed, and it was developed by the superintendent 4 superintendents ago, if I'm not mistaken, it was envisioned at that time that there would be a need for an entire department to accomplish what he does. So it's always been a bit of a disconnect that he doesn't have a staff that he supervises. And people have wondered, why is it that he's in management? He doesn't even have any direct reports. And it's simply a function, in my opinion, of the change in technology over the years, that one person could continue to do what he's done. The amount of devices that he has personally overseen in the years that we're describing is phenomenal. And the institutional knowledge that he has and that he's created and developed in doing that job has kept this district in good stead for all of the years that we have needed him to do this position. So I do understand that it's a match for his skill set. It isn't a match for his compensation, and I recognize that. I feel like we really need to take a pause for a second and think about this, because there are overlaps with the position that you were approving earlier, that you approved earlier in this meeting. And it's not really clear to me exactly where the lines should be drawn and need to be drawn between the instructional support technology piece and the straight up hardcore network engineer work that keeps us able to hand a Chromebook to a kid and know that it's going to work. And believe me, that's exactly what we did this week. And that's exactly what I'm going to do tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock when I hand 2 more Chromebooks to 2 more kids. So we really, really need to think this through really carefully before we decide on this dramatic action. And I thank you for letting me have an opportunity to speak on this.
Thank you very much. Oh, that was the timer, I think. I don't know.
Yes, exactly. Time's up.
So that was great. So I guess further discussion on this. I mean, well, let me just put in my 2 cents here. I mean, it sounds like this is a really difficult decision to make, and there have been there have been cases put forth on both sides. I guess the question for me is, the attempt here is to try to strategically reconfigure our technology department to be more efficient. And my overarching question is, can we be just as productive with less money? Or even more productive with less money? And that's my question. And I don't know the answer to that yet, but I think that's sort of the motivation here, is to reconfigure for more efficient delivery of services. Now, I am not one to question how good Nelson is, but the question for me that's in my head is, can we maintain the same delivery of service with lower cost? And that's kind of what's in my head right now. So I just wanted to share that with the group. I invite my fellow board members to weigh in.
I'm just a little unsure about creating a position. I know that, we do need to work on our technology department per se, but eliminating his position, it just, I don't know. From what I'm hearing, he's doing a good job, but maybe I'm just unaware of any other issues that might be there. So I'm having a hard time with this one.
May I interject? Is that Heather? Is it okay if I say something?
Who is this, Maria?
Yeah. I just
think
I'm
actually listening by phone now at this point.
Okay. I just want to, from an HR perspective, I just want to be really careful that we're not speaking publicly about individuals, and that we keep this to an objective discussion about the organizational structure and the position itself. It's just, I think we're walking a very fine line. That's all. I'm just giving a little 2 cents there.
Thank you. And I'm sorry if I
No,
stepped on that line
I
or
think
stepped
the
over
whole
that line.
discussion has been of that nature, and I know it's very hard to separate individuals from organizational issues, but I think we just need to try to do that, as my suggestion.
Much appreciated. Thank you. So, can I invite my colleagues to weigh in
Well,
here?
even still, without making it personal about who's in the position, the position that's there right now is very similar to the job description we just approved. So it's not, there's not enough difference between the two for me to really feel comfortable eliminating one and adding another when we already have that position with those descriptions in place.
So can I ask you, Kai, what if you could get that job for a significantly lower amount of money, or get those services delivered?
I would like to get the services delivered for a significant less money. I mean, we're always trying to, do that, but also it's a little, it's just, it's just a little bit not clear for me. It's
Okay.
It's just not there. Like it doesn't feel right.
I think the job description that we just approved has additional skill sets that maybe this person does not have. And so that's the creation of the new job description. I think it has yes, some of the, a lot of the same skill sets, but I think it has additional skill sets that that employee maybe doesn't possess as much.
Now this summer, the plan had been to put in a new network over the summer, right? Now, would that be managed by this person before they leave or before the position is reduced? Or would that be on
So
the new?
the network, yeah, the new network refresh is going to be something that happens over the period of time. It's not something that happens quickly necessarily if you think about our 9 district locations. And so just a portion of that would get started this summer. And it would be, I think that the process, the request for proposals would be done by the leader of the department, as would procurement of classroom devices, classroom technology, working with staff in terms of selecting the best staff. That would probably be done by the instructional technology person. The boxes and wires part, the overseeing the piece with our advisor, that would be done by the network analyst.
May I also add, this is Josie. If we were able to hire a project manager for the bond, that person would also be able to help with the infrastructures of installing technology as well.
Meaning that they wouldn't install it, but they would do some of the budget processes around procuring and managing the contracts.
Correct.
So there is an item in the question and answer, and it's by a person named N. I'm not sure who N is, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to read these to everybody or invite this person to speak. But I'm happy to read it.
Sure, go ahead.
So it says, I would like to remind the board that Nelson is also over our district phone systems and copiers. So there must be a word missing there, but is also overseeing probably our district phone system and copiers. Just another little tidbit there. Okay. So I'm not sure whether we are at kind of impasse here and we are not ready to consider this action.
I just want to make one comment. I do have felt as a parent for a lot of years that our technology has not been where it's needed to be. Now, the last several weeks have been outstanding, and I am so proud of the district and how far it's gone and getting all these computers out to everyone. But I do think the well thought out plan moving forward and the way they're planning on restructuring technology is actually a good one. Me putting more emphasis on the education and less on just dealing with wires and troubleshooting. I mean, I understand we need more discussion, but I do feel like there's been a lot of thought put into this, and I don't think it's a bad plan.
Somebody?
Linda, you just muted it at the very end, but I think you were done.
Yeah, I was done. I just said that's my 2 cents.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I think the job description that we approved has more teacher-oriented items, where the technology up to now, technology used to be really separate from the classroom. It's integrated so much over the last 20 years that, I think there's a lot of additional items in the new job description that maybe the old job description of the other employee doesn't have that those skill sets. And as Jesse said, you know, we do have to worry about also just reducing the budget, which is hard to do because you can't reduce the budget without also being attached to actual people in the positions.
I just want to make my final comment. This is Laverne. I just feel like as a board member and somebody who represents the district, that if we just offer pay cuts to our long-term employees, that is something that I don't want to support. And, you know, maybe that's going to cross over to my, you know, my duties here. But if somebody's been with a company for 20 years, you don't cut their pay unless they are, you know, floundering, they're not doing a good job. And from what I've heard tonight, I don't see any evidence of that. And so, unless somebody can show me something different, I do believe that our tech department could use all of these positions because there's so much work that needs to be done. And yes, we need people to be educated on the new technology, but if we don't have people who are going out there and servicing the laptops, the computers, that's going to affect how our district is run. And so, you know, I'm just not inclined to treat a 20-year-old employee that way.
Okay, I'm not sure I saw it as a direct pay cut because I saw it as a change, basically saying there's one position that we don't think we need as much as another position, and while there's overlap there, it's not perfect overlap. So I'm not sure if I saw it as a direct pay cut to somebody. I saw it as trading positions, if you will.
Actually, not even that.
So can you please elaborate, Ms. Gavidia?
Yes, it's really not even that. It's apples and oranges. This is a proposal to cut a position. The result of cutting that position is that an employee is being released or laid off. Whether or not that individual chooses to apply for any openings that might exist with the district is entirely up to that individual.
Sure.
It's yeah. So it's really
I mean, I guess that's what I was trying to say. These are two different positions. We're trying to give one up, but there's some overlap, but not, you know.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit nervous about the kinds of conversations we're having publicly about an individual. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to clarify. I don't agree with Laverne's characterization of it either. So that's I guess that's what I'm saying is I'm not sure that I agree with exactly the way it was characterized there. These are two different positions, and so
I can clarify that. I'm just, you know, I'm looking at the value of an employee for the past 20 years. And I'm not going to go on any further because I do agree with Maria that, you know, our district is so small, you know, and we don't have that many people in the IT department, you know, but that's nobody's fault. So I'm just going to leave it there.
Okay.
I think unfortunately with budget cuts coming in, this won't be the first, or I mean, won't be the last, that you have to look at them as positions and try not to necessarily attach people to them, unfortunately. There's never a good time, and
decisions.
Yeah, the reorganization of, you know, of the tech department, you know, we've come a long way in the last 20 years. We need to go further, and it's more based around education in the classrooms.
So I'm wondering if we should be putting this to a vote, or if there are questions that more information people need to be able to make a decision on this. And I'm not sure if I have another QA here or not. Okay. No.
Oh, nope.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know whose public comment that was, but the timer went off. The eggs are ready. Um, so how do we move forward?
There we go. Okay.
Is there a motion?
Sorry,
is there,
my sound cut out, so I just got my sound back. So
okay. Well, so I mean, I could call this for a motion, because I haven't heard anybody want to table this. So
You would, yeah, you would call a motion to approve the resolution.
yeah. So do I have a motion to approve this resolution 2020-0401B, resolution to reduce certain classified management services?
I make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I can second.
Okay, Ms. Campos. You are on mute, Ms. Campos.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Trustee Bradall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
No.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
No.
Motion passed.
Okay, moving to, I guess that's the last one in 10. Yes, so we are moving to the board bylaws, 11. So BP 5131 conduct, Ms. Gavidia.
Yes, these are just two very quick items. 5131 is one that we are bringing back from, I think it sometime in the fall when it first came up. And Dr. Levin, you had a question for me that I needed to do some research on with County Council to get an answer to on page 2. About the middle of the page under the heading of conduct. There's a sentence there that's stricken in the middle that says the district shall not be responsible, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know if you recall, but you were concerned about taking that out. And so council's advice was that it should be taken out, not because it either is or is not the case, but because it is not something that belongs in a board policy. If that is a statement that the district wishes to make, it should appear in something else like a handbook or something like that.
Okay, and this district should not be responsible for a student's personal belongings which are brought onto campus or to a school activity and are lost, stolen, or damaged.
So yes, so leaving it in or taking it out doesn't have any bearing on whether or not this is true. It's just that it's not in the right place.
Okay.
Okay, so we left it stricken out, and that's how we would recommend at least the policy be approved.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
What's that?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We can hear you, yes.
Hello?
Yes, we
can hear you.
We can hear
okay.
you and we can see
Everybody froze for a second.
you. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so understood. So if we wanted to put that somewhere else in a handbook, we could, but this is being stricken. Thank you very
belong.
much for
Sure.
following up on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it for that one.
Okay, so we have the next one, which is AR 4116 probationary permanent status from the October 2019 manual maintenance. Ms. Gavidia.
Right. So this one was just, we hadn't stricken enough out of this one the last time we brought it forward. So the way it appears now is the way that it should be approved, which is with permanent status. The first section that addresses this, how permanent status is achieved by a certificated employee in districts of larger than 250 students. Option the first section is what applies. Sorry. The first section applies permanent status.
Okay.
So a certificated individual who passes through 2 years of probationary status with satisfactory evaluations at the start of their 3rd year becomes permanent. And that's how this is presented to you in the format that it should be approved. Or is
Okay. Do we have comment here? Or do we just want to go straight to I seem to have lost my
This is just for
First,
information
information.
discussion.
That's it.
would
Okay,
come,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
it'll come back.
But
Yeah,
if people
understood.
had comments, this would be the place to do it.
Or
I
questions.
have no comments. Or
I have
questions.
no comment.
I have no comments.
No comment.
Thank you.
No. Oh, no comment.
Okay. The last item, that was everyone, right?
Yes.
So I'm operating now phone only. My my visual is now gone. Future agenda items. So during this period of time when we're doing virtual meetings, those last 2 board items were the ones that were singletons from other blocks. But I think the suggestion would be for this purpose, for this period of time that we're meeting virtually, is that we pause our manual maintenance review. Number one, to help with the workload for the trustees in terms of the reading, but also to shorten the meetings, and that if at the end of the period of time when we return to some normalcy, is that we could possibly have a special meeting where we could review blocks of board items. Are there some thoughts on that?
I think that this was originally Trustee Villalobos's idea, and I think it's a great one.
I think this is Laverne or Miss Villalobos. I think it's a good idea just because we have more pressing matters at hand right now.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Are we talking about adding things to this as well?
If you have some items that you'd like to add.
I think that the board should have more discussion around the organizational chart and
Okay.
the hiring of a new HR person and the duties and how
Okay.
many people that person would be overseeing.
Okay. Duties. Okay. We will bring that back next time. And I think that as described earlier, I think the timeline of end of April does give us some more time. So we'll put that on the April 29th board meeting. Any other items?
Heather,
Yes.
is it okay to mention one that possibly will come up,
Which is what?
which is the grading
Oh.
policy? We're going to have to change.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to have to make an amendment to the grading policy. That policy will have to have an amendment for this special circumstance. So that'll come up.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yep. So also on the April 29th meeting, is at that point, I think we should be far enough along in terms of our work with teachers around making an amendment. We may not have it but by April 29th or the May meeting would be one around how do you do grading in 6th through 8th grade for during the period of distance learning. So yes, thank you. That'll be a board policy. And it's 51-2021 is that?
21, and I should have a draft of what it should look like by the April 29th meeting.
Yeah. and we can do information on in April and then approval in May.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay, very good. All right, thank you. Any other items for future agendas before we close? Before we do officially adjourn, I would like to thank Suzanne Campos for leading our journey into the virtual network, into the virtual meetings. This was not easy to do, a lot of unanswered questions. And also thank you to Christy Novak and Manny Ponce, who helped us with the Zoom platform. We'll be gathering your feedback. I have had probably as many tech difficulties as anyone out there, so I look forward to figuring some of those out. I was glad to have the phone, but it's very hard to do a board meeting when you only hear.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody just for their patience, all those involved. Okay, this wasn't easy, but I think we did it as best we could, and we are going to have at least a few more of these. So I think, or at least one more, I think. So thank you so much for making the time. If there's nothing else, I will adjourn this meeting. Nothing else? Okay,
Nothing else.
meeting adjourned, 10:07.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.